One TV show from the 1980s was so outrageous, it sparked backlash from concerned parents. And controversy that reached network executives. But here's what nobody tells you. That same show accidentally launched the career of one of today's biggest stars and changed how children's television was regulated forever. Today, I'm counting down 10 more wildly forgotten TV shows from the decade that brought us the best and worst of television. These weren't just weird. They were magnificently, unapologetically insane in ways that would get entire networks shut down today. The 1980s were a time when networks had money to burn, and cocaine was apparently a food group in Hollywood. Let's dive into the shows that time forgot, but probably shouldn't have. Number 10, Small Wonder, 1985 to 1989. Starting us off is the family sitcom that asks the important question, what if a robotics engineer built a daughter instead of adopting one? Small Wonder. This show premiered right when America was falling in love with technology, but still terrified of it. Ted Lawson, played by Dick Christie, was a robotics engineer who built Vicky, a robot daughter who looked like a normal 10-year-old, but had superhuman strength and the emotional range of a toaster. Vicky the robot, played by Tiffany Brissett, was supposed to be the perfect daughter. Instead, she mostly just caused chaos, while completely misunderstanding basic human emotions. It was like the Jetsons. But if Rosie was your creepy neighbor's kid who never blinked, the show ran in first-run syndication, which in the 80s was like the Wild West of television. Anything could happen, and usually did. Small Wonder lasted 4 seasons, proving that audiences were so hungry for family sitcoms, they'd accept even the most questionable parenting decisions, including building your own child in the garage. Number 9, Sledgehammer, 1986 to 1988. Next up, the police comedy that made Dirty Harry look like a sensitivity training video. Sledgehammer. This show arrived right when America was obsessed with tough guy cops, thanks to movies like Lethal Weapon and Beverly Hills Cop. Inspector Sledgehammer talked to his gun like it was his best friend, solved crimes by blowing things up, and had the social awareness of a particularly aggressive houseplant. David Rash played the character with such deadpan delivery that some viewers weren't sure if it was a comedy or just a documentary about unhinged cops. The catchphrase, "Trust me, I know what I'm doing," right before causing enough property damage to fund a small country's infrastructure. Created by Alan Spencer when he was just 23 years old, the show was basically a young guy's idea of what adult humor looked like. It lasted 2 seasons and became a cult classic for viewers who appreciated satire that made Reagan-era machismo look even more ridiculous. Number 8, Misfits of Science, 1985. Coming in hot, the superhero team show that tried to ride the comic book wave back when comic books were still considered kids' stuff. The team featured a guy who could shrink, a guy who could shoot electricity, and a telekinetic woman. Johnny B, the lightning-shooting ex-rocker, was the fan favorite. And no, there was no android despite how much it felt like there should have been one. Dean Paul Martin, yes, Dean Martin's son, led the group. The casting was peak 80s nepotism. If your dad was famous, you got a TV show. The special effects? Impressive for 1985, which means someone used a lot of dry ice and maybe a light bright. NBC wanted this to be their own version of the A-Team, but with mutant powers instead of military skills. It lasted just 16 episodes, proving that superpowers won't save you if the writing can't. Number 7, Street Hawk, 1985. Next, Street Hawk, also known as Knight Rider's edgy cousin, with a motorcycle. The titular bike could go 300 miles per hour, shoot missiles, and leap over buildings. Because in 1985, that's what we thought the future looked like. The show starred Rex Smith, a former pop singer, who not only played Jesse Mack, but also sang the show's theme song. Because in the 80s, if you could sing, you could act. And if you could act, you could definitely sing. Street Hawk had everything. Lasers, secret government agencies, high-octane chase scenes, and zero plot. It lasted 13 episodes, which was probably 12 more than it deserved. Number 6. Tales from the Dark Side, 1983 to 1988. Let's get spooky. Tales from the Dark Side was the horror anthology that traumatized an entire generation of latchkey kids. Created by George A. Romero, director of Night of the Living Dead. This show aired in syndication, right when parents still thought TV could babysit their kids. Each episode was a self-contained horror story, usually ending in irony, revenge, or psychological trauma. The intro alone was nightmare fuel. Man lives in the sunlit world of what he believes to be reality. By the end of that narration, you were already regretting watching it in the dark. It ran for 4 seasons and launched careers for actors like Christian Slater, Steve Buscemi, and Julianne Moore. It proved that horror could work on television if you didn't mind scarring children for life. Number 5. The Greatest American Hero, 1981 to 1983. Taking the middle spot, The Greatest American Hero. Ralph Hinckley, played by William Catt, is given a super suit by aliens, but loses the instruction manual, which means his flying is more like crashing. His powers are unpredictable, and most of his victories are total accidents. It was like watching Superman if he'd been raised by the Three Stooges. Created by Stephen J. Cannell, the mastermind behind the A-Team and 21 Jump Street, the show mixed action, comedy, and a healthy dose of 80s optimism. The theme song, Believe It or Not by Joey Scarberry, which became a legit hit, reaching number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. The show lasted 3 seasons, and proved you don't have to be perfect cheer to be a hero. Before we hit the top 4, what weird 80s show do you remember? Was there one that stuck in your brain for decades? Let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying this trip down memory lane, give this video a like and hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and keeps the nostalgia train rolling. Number 4. V, 1984 to 1985. At number 4, the alien invasion epic known simply as V. It began as a 1983 miniseries, followed by V, The Final Battle in 1984, and then a weekly series from October 1984 to March 1985. Reptilian aliens disguised as humans arrive on Earth, claiming to be peaceful. Spoiler alert, they're not. They peel off their faces to reveal their lizard selves, which was supposed to be terrifying, but looked like a Halloween gag gone wrong. The human resistance fights back, armed with rebellion, sabotage, and plot armor. It was Red Dawn meets The Outer Limits, with a side of rubber prosthetics. The series was short-lived, but earned a devoted cult following, and in 2009, it even got a reboot. Because apparently, every generation needs its own lizard people conspiracy. Number 3. Otherworld, 1985. Now, imagine the Brady Bunch got stuck in an alternate dimension. That's basically Otherworld. The Sterling family visits the Great Pyramid of Giza and ends up in a bizarre parallel universe. Each zone had its own culture, from fitness-obsessed dystopias to towns where rock and roll was illegal. It was the Twilight Zone, with a nuclear family and Doctor Who's special effects budget. Sam Groom and Gretchen Corbett played the parents, doing their best to keep the family together while navigating bizarre rules, rebels, and government weirdos. NBC gave it just 8 episodes, probably because inventing a new world every week on a shoestring budget is hard. Number 2. Whiz Kids, 1983 to 1984. Runner-up time, and it's a show that saw the future and actually got it right. Whiz Kids followed a group of teen computer geniuses who used early hacking skills to solve crimes. In 1983, most adults thought computers were magic boxes that beeped. So seeing teens use them like detective tools, that was wild. Matthew Laberteau, from Little House on the Prairie, played Richie Adler, the group's leader. They enhanced photos, hacked into networks, and basically predicted Google, Facebook, and cyber forensics before any of us knew what Wi-Fi was. It only ran for one season, but looking back, it was surprisingly prophetic. Number 1. Turbo Teen, 1984 to 1985. And finally, the cartoon that still haunts people to this day, Turbo Teen. Teenager Brett Matthews gets caught in a lightning storm during a government experiment. And now he transforms into a red sports car whenever he gets hot or excited. Yes, he turns into a car. Produced by Ruby Spears, the same studio behind Scooby-Doo, the show pushed the limits of what was acceptable in children's television. The transformation sequences were detailed. Too detailed. Watching a boy's limbs morph into chrome and his face stretch into a grill, that's something you don't forget. Turbo Teen only lasted one season, but it became infamous as a cautionary tale about pushing animation too far. These 10 shows represent a strange, glorious time in TV history, when network executives said yes to just about anything. Robot daughters, teen hackers, interdimensional families, lizard aliens, and kids who turned into cars. The 80s didn't always make sense, but they always made an impression. Thanks for watching, and here's to keeping the weird, wild spirit of 80s TV very much alive.